Welcome to the first video on the project, which is going to start with parts 1 and 2. So first off, I have been asked where to find the project, so you need to go to either week 5 or you can go to week 8 because those are the weeks where the project has parts that are due. So in week 5 you will see the rough draft instructions, which is where you should start. And you're going to need to download these two documents. So the project template is going to look like this, and it breaks it down. Number 1, you should be able to do at the end of week 1, which is why we're discussing it now, as well as part 2, which you can do at this point. And then later we will discuss part 3 as we head into week 4. So you can look for an announcement in week 4 on that part. So that's the project. You're just going to make sure. Now you're going to write the project more as a paper. So don't just give me bullets of each part, but write them in paragraphs. So the introduction should be a paragraph. And I just want to emphasize that when you choose your data set and you tell me why you find it interesting and the benefits, make sure the benefits are more statistical and not just, well, I really find this topic interesting. Because you find it interesting, how could this data be used? Is what I'm really looking for in that paragraph. Now the data set, which is the second link here, I get a lot of questions on that as well. There are 4 data sets, and I'm going to move this so I can pull this up a little. If you look at the bottom, there are tabs. Those of you who've never seen tabs before, that means we have 4 different data sets. So you're going to use this entire data set. Do not just choose 4 data points. You're going to use all 41 or 42 of them, 40 of them. Then there's another data set on baseball pitching. So you have the ERA versus the WHIP score. Those of you who love baseball will probably love this one. You can tell me what the WHIP score means. Then you have SAT scores. So we have the math versus the critical reading score. Now I do want to point out it does give years. We're not comparing what happens over time. We're comparing the math versus the reading. So if someone like me who loves math, you're probably expecting me to have a higher math score versus a higher reading score, which could be true or not be true, depending on the person. So what you want to see is, if I have a high math score, do I also have a high reading score? Or if I have a high math score, is it more likely that I have a low reading score? So you're going to compare when you do that. And the last one is calories versus carbs. And as we know, there could be a correlation, but if you eat a giant steak, they're probably going to have, calories, but without any carbs. So you're going to plot it and discuss and compare. So try to mix it up. I do get a lot of the box office ones just because it's on the first page. So feel free to branch out. But that's how you read this data set. And I do recommend copy and paste when you go to use this data set because it is a lot of numbers. So you have the data set, you have the project template. Now, as we're heading into week 1, the first part, the introduction, you're just going to talk about it, choose your data set, talk about it. Then for part 2, you're going to create a scatter plot. And I wanted to point out that in the week 1 instructional materials, there's a video on how to make your own scatter plot, but then there is a scatter plot tutorial in Desmos. And I really just want to point these out because I find I get a lot of questions on information that is in the content section, but I find I'm not a huge fan of the organization here, so I'm just going to point it out to you. So if you go back to week 1, it's just this little link right here, instructional materials. I just want to put big stars around it. And here's where you're going to see an overview, but it's in these lectures. So you of course want to read all of the lectures, but this is where you will find the one on scatter plots. So I want to make sure you can find all of those because they're all important. You're going to want to read every single one of those because in a lot of our discussions, these tutorials are going to walk you through the process. And without that tutorial, you're just going to be staring. I would just be staring at it. You need that information. So that is where you will find that information. So at this point, you can work on your introduction, choose your data set, you can do your scatter plot, make sure you answer all of these questions. And I am going to post in a sample project that does not use any of these data sets to give you a feel for what this is going to look like. You are going to embed the scatter plot right in. Your project is just going to be one file, one Word document. So you're going to put your scatter plots in, you're going to make it look professional, and you're going to make sure that you answer all of these questions so that you don't miss any points. So if you have any questions, let me know, and then I will post more in week 4 once we've done a little bit more and can give a little more information to get through the rest of the rough draft, which is due in week 5. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you back again in week 4.